Hi friends, welcome to my channel, Yaya's Heart Tarot. Today is September 3rd, and I'll be bringing you messages from the departed. We'll be doing 2 readings today, but before we get to the 2 groups, I will go through my messages from my preparatory meditation, as I typically do with this reading. So let's go ahead and get started with that. I really haven't even given these much thought, so we'll see what comes up with this. The first vision that I saw was the mountains at sunrise. It could have been sunset as well, but I feel as though I had the message sunrise in my head. So, as I've mentioned before, I believe that these visions and messages that I get in the meditation are messages to help you know who is coming through for you. So messages at sunrise, mountains at sunrise might be if you have spent maybe a special vacation with a loved one in the mountains and gotten up early to see the sunrise. If you have been maybe traveling with a loved one, or someone who's departed and were driving toward the mountains and saw the sun come up over the mountains. It could be, it almost looked like sort of more of a representation than actual mountains, so it could also be maybe a picture that hung in someone's home of the mountains at sunrise. Perhaps someone was a photographer and that was a favorite motif of theirs. So then, in addition to the next message that I got in the meditation was just a deep aching pain in both of my collarbones and into my shoulders here. So I actually took that to mean that there are some of you who are closing yourselves off to the outside world due to the grief of the loss of a loved one. And then immediately after that, I had the sensation of a refreshing breeze around my forehead and my hairline, and my scalp kind of tingling around the hairline, which gradually sort of made its way down through my body, about into my mid-torso. So for those of you who are closing yourself off because of the grief that you feel for this loved one, know that this refreshing breeze and tingling was the crown chakra opening and your loved ones coming through and telling you that they don't want you to do that. They don't want you to close yourself off from others. They know that it's difficult to lose a loved one. They understand that, but they also want you to know that you have to continue living. They want you to continue to connect with others, and not to seclude yourself or close yourself off. So the next message that I saw, or the next vision that I saw, was probably some sort of countryside, although I didn't get a real clear picture of that. What I did see was a very ominous dark sky, and it wasn't like rolling clouds or anything. It was just completely dark and gray. So I don't know if that could mean that you had a loved one who was lost in some sort of a storm. It could be that that this is a predominant feeling that you have around this loved one, a very oppressive, around this departed, a very, very oppressive sense of foreboding, a sense of hopelessness. This was just a very dark, heavy, gray feeling, although it was an actual picture of a sky. So if that resonates for some of you, whether that is an actual dark sky, like I said, with perhaps a storm of some sort, or if this is more of an impression of a particular deceased that you may have lost, that is just sort of, maybe they were always sort of swirling in darkness, more of an emotional or archetypical feeling about this departed. Then I saw a very colorful bird with long tail feathers. It was predominantly yellow or orange. And initially I saw it sitting on either a tree outside or a balcony railing, or a tree just outside of a balcony railing, and then I saw it sitting on someone's shoulder. So this bird could indicate either someone who had a pet bird, who was very, very much in love with birds. They loved to see birds. Perhaps they loved feathers. Perhaps they had a special feather that they had found somewhere. But this bird was very, very bright orangish yellow. So it was a very tropical sort of bird. So in addition to being the actual bird reference, it also brings about a sense of happiness. Birds can fly, so there's a lightness associated with them. And then yellow is the color of the sun, the color of warmth. So there's that, just sort of a general resonance of very, very happiness. So if there was, if your departed loved one was very, very happy and jovial and welcoming and warm all the time, that could be another message about that. This bird also seemed very tropical. So if you had someone who lived in a tropical place, or perhaps someone that you traveled to a tropical place with, you may have even seen this bird somewhere. It could have been a bird that was in like a circus or something that you went to perhaps, but that wasn't really how I saw it. I really did see this more as a bird that lived in the wild, but that perhaps was tame enough to come close to people. And again, it may have been a pet. I did see it sitting on someone's shoulder, but that almost seemed more of a bird that had been tamed but was not actually a pet. And then I saw a very clear vision of a man who was quite portly. He had on a hat. It wasn't a fedora, but I'm not that familiar with the name of hats, but it was like a businessman's hat, probably brown or gray. He had a very thin mustache. He had dark rimmed glasses, and he was wearing a scarf that was a very soft but warm scarf, perhaps like a silk knit scarf. And he also had on a heavy tweed jacket, so I got the impression that it was quite cold. This individual seemed he wasn't like jolly. He was a very large man. He was quite heavy. Had a very round head, but he seemed content. He seemed like someone who was happy with his life. And this was apparently, it was cold where he was. So, this could be an actual individual. It was a very clear vision of this person. And there was really nothing else that was particularly notable about the scene, except that it was definitely cold. I had the feeling just from his attire that it was in the city, and that he was some sort of businessman. So that might ring a bell with some of you as well. I also had, for some reason, I'm getting a message now about like Christmas shopping in the city. Christmas shopping at a store that was inside of a very tall skyscraper type of building, perhaps decorated for Christmas, someplace like Macy's or something like that, that was within a big city like New York City. So if that rings a bell, that may be who's coming through for you. And then the last vision that I had was just looking out over a very long, huge, lush green crop that just went on and on and on forever. It was all very sort of a uniform height. It was a very tall sort of a crop, like corn or perhaps sunflowers, but not flowering sunflowers. It was just green. It also reminded me perhaps of very lush vineyards that stretched out over the hills. It was a tall crop because I couldn't even see beyond the crop. It went so far and it was so tall that I couldn't see past it. But it sort of disappeared into a mist, way in the distance. So perhaps if you had a loved one who raised some sort of crops, perhaps someone who was a winemaker, or it almost, in certain instances, almost reminded me of Italy, but it also reminded me again of, like I said, a field of sunflowers. So if that rings a bell for anyone, then that may be a message as to who might be coming through for you. Okay, so let's get going. Our first group number 1 here, this is a Jade Freeform. It's kind of difficult to see. It almost looks black in this light, but it is dark green. It's a Jade Freeform. It's quite heavy. And then the card that I drew intuitively says, see the synchronicity. And there's a further message on the back, but that's the message on the front. See the synchronicity. And the Jade Freeform. That's group 1. And group 2 is a root chakra soapstone box. Root chakra soapstone box, also quite heavy. And the card that was drawn says be proactive. So that's group number 2. So take whatever time you need to decide which group you would like to listen to. You can pause the video if you need to. As always, the groups will be linked to a timestamp down below in the description area. So to get to your group, simply drop down below and click on the timestamp that corresponds to the group that you've chosen, and it'll take you directly to the beginning of your reading. And I will see you there. Hi, group 1. This is your reading, the Jade Freeform. The first message that we'd like to get is a message to represent the departed that's coming through. So Spirit, could you please give us some messages to represent who is coming through for group 1, please? Who is coming through for group 1? Who is coming through for group 1? Okay. Okay. So this is a bit of a unique deck, but we got some kind of interesting imagery here. We got this wound man, and we got the 6 of Wands, and we got this card of awakening, illumination, and hope. So the loved one, the departed who is coming through for you, is someone who, I feel like it was someone who had a lot of inner wounds, someone who went through a lot in their life. They dealt with a lot. They may have created a lot of these wounds themselves, but they were eternally hopeful that they were going to find their way to a place where they could be happy and healed, but they never really got there. Yeah, they were someone who they just had a lot of trials in their life, a lot of trials and tribulation, a lot of difficulties, a lot of battles that they fought. They may have been inner battles. They may have had things that happened to them. But I get a very strong sense that a lot of this was almost kind of self-perpetuated. Not necessarily self-created, meaning that there were things that led to them perhaps perpetuating the wounding that they had. And so they always kind of lived with this sense of, they always lived with this heartache, with this turmoil inside of them. But they were always, always hopeful that they were going to find a way out of it. So that's who's coming through for you today. And I think that's all we need that deck for. So let's put that one back away. Okay, so Spirit, can you please give us messages, and thank you for that. Can you please give us messages of the relationship between this departed and group 1? What is the relationship that they had to the departed? Okay. The first card we got was the Emperor. So this individual was like your child. They may have literally been your child. They also might have been someone that you looked upon as a child, someone that you, not a child, but like an adult child perhaps, but you looked upon them with a parental feeling, whether you were their actual parent or whether you just had a very strong desire to parent this child. You wanted to parent them or lead them in a way that would teach them how to be stronger in their life and teach them how to get through life, and just a way to help them avoid some of the pitfalls that they were inevitably heading toward because they were very impulsive with what they did. They didn't really think things through oftentimes. They just acted. And so you had kind of taken it upon yourself, whether this was your actual offspring or not, you had taken it upon yourself to parent them, to try and help them navigate through, to teach them the ropes, more or less. You may have at times have had to show some pretty tough love to them, but you did in fact love them, and you wanted to help them, but you wanted to help them by showing them how to stand on their own 2 feet, how to deal with any adversity that came up. You wanted to teach them how to be a solid individual, how to maybe have a job, or how to communicate with other people in a way that didn't leave them vulnerable. So that's how this individual was related to you, or you were related to them. Spirit, thank you for that message. What is the query or concern that Group 1 has for their loved one? Group 1, what is your question, your query? What do you want to know from the departed? What does Group 1 want to know? What is their question for the departed? Okay. So Group 1, what you want to know is, what did you miss? What were you missing? What piece of the puzzle did you not you feel like you had a pretty good handle on who this individual was, but there was something that you missed. And you didn't realize that until after they were gone. So your question is, what is it that you missed, and how did you miss it? Why didn't you see this factor, whatever it is? There's just something. You had formed an image of who this individual was, and you thought that you had a good handle on it. You really thought that you knew who they were, and you knew how to help them. But you realized after they were gone, there was something that you missed. And you don't know what that was, but you want to know. So Spirit, thank you for those messages. What is the departed's reply? Okay. Well, first of all, the departed wants you to know that they were, because of the work that you put in with them, because of the care that you gave to them, they were beginning to have some stability. They were beginning to get solid. They really were. But the burden that they carried was just too much. Even though there was this hope that they had begun to have because of your helping them, they really, really did think that things were on the right track. But this burden that they carried just came roaring in. It was just too much. And they just couldn't overcome it. So it wasn't, they want you to know that it wasn't so much that you missed something necessarily. You were right. They were getting better. You were helping them. You really were. But maybe it wasn't so much that you missed something. It was just you didn't realize the extent or the depth of the wounding that they had. And it was just more than they could overcome. So, thank you for that message, Spirit. What is something that the departed wants their loved one to know? What is something that the departed wants Group 1 to know? Departed, what do you want your loved one to know? Okay. So, your loved one wants you to know that they did know what you did for them, and it meant the world to them. It was the only richness that they had in their life. Maybe not the only richness, but it was something solid. It was something that when they thought they were just going to lose it all, when they felt completely unmoored and unanchored, what you gave to them made a huge difference, and they very much loved you for it. They loved you. There was a special bond that they felt from you because of what you had given to them. They feel like they didn't realize it or show it enough when they were here. And maybe they couldn't. Everything was just coming at them too fast in their life. But they want you to know now that what you did for them, they realize now that what you gave to them, what you sacrificed for them, what you wanted them to have. And not just like physically have, but what you wanted for them is just an amazing, amazing gift. And they understand now. They've had this illumination. And they really, really know and appreciate and love what you did for them when they were here. Even though they may not have been able to show it at the time, or they could not consistently show it enough. You probably knew, but they don't think that you understand the magnitude of what you gave to them. And they didn't understand it either when they were here. They didn't really get all of it. They knew somewhat, but they didn't really stop long enough to really feel how they felt about you. They were just always kind of dealing with external stuff, this wounding that they had, or perhaps internal stuff. And in fact, it wasn't so much, I take that back, they weren't really dealing with the internal stuff. That was the problem. They kept everything external so they didn't have to deal with the internal stuff. And unfortunately, some of the stuff that was internal was their feelings for you. And so they just want you to know how much they really, really appreciate everything you did for them, and how they can't possibly express how much they love you for that. So that's the message that they have for you. So let's see what our oracle card or our wisdom card says. And again, the card is See the Synchronicity. So the lesson is, take note of all synchronistic happenings and coincidences that occur on this day, and know that nothing happens by accident. Your goal is to appreciate the divine details that are woven into every moment of your life. So this loved one is going to come through, and they're going to send you messages. Those messages will be in the form of something that the two of you shared, some quirk that they may have had, something that you always remember about them, a favorite color they always wore, or a particular brand of shoes. You're going to see something that's going to remind you of them, or you're going to hear something, perhaps a phrase that they always used, or their favorite song. So notice all of those synchronicities and know that this loved one is with you. So thank you so much for joining me for this reading. I always appreciate you being here with me and spending your time here. And I always, always welcome you back anytime, whenever you can, and whenever you wish to be here. I will welcome you back. Thank you so much. Bye. Hi, Group 2. This is your reading, the Soapstone Root Chakra box. The first message that we're going to get from Spirit today is who is coming through for you. We need messages, please, to represent who is coming through for Group 2. Who is coming through for Group 2? Okay. Interesting. So this is an individual who was typically very happy. They were kind of the light of everybody's life. They were the life of the party. But they were also very tormented. But they didn't show that to anyone. They may have had some depression that very few people knew about. In fact, I'd say it's a very strong possibility that that was the case. They were always the like I said, they were the life of the party. They were the one who was cracking jokes. They were the one who like made everyone else feel comfortable. And because of that, very few people knew that they actually had some pretty dark demons that they were dealing with. So that's who's coming through for you. Spirit, could we get just a little bit more clarity on that? A little more clarification on who is coming through. Okay, yeah, well, that's about all we're going to get. This individual, again, had some very, very strong demons. They were very much wounded. They may have committed suicide. I'm sorry to put that bluntly, but this card very definitely could indicate that. Also, the roses around this individual, this is someone that you loved very, very much. But you didn't feel like you could get to them. So that's who's coming through for you. Spirit, thank you for that message. What was the relationship between this individual and group 2? What was their relationship? How were they related, or how did they relate? What was their relationship? Okay. Page of Pentacles and the Six of Pentacles. Excuse me, the Six of Swords. This has something to do with traveling. But it's almost as though they traveled places, or they were always going somewhere, but you couldn't go with them. Or maybe you were trying to hold them back from going places. Or it could be that they were always sort of flighty and jumping into things before they really gave it much thought. They were just sort of flying off the handle all the time, and you were trying to keep them grounded. Yeah, I feel like that's a strong component here, that they were always sort of flying off the handle, and that may not even be physical travel or going and doing things. It could just be that was their, they would just get angry suddenly. They would explode. They would fly off the handle. And you were always trying to calm them down or bring them back or stop them from going and doing something crazy, or stop them from going and doing something harmful. So that was your relationship with this departed. Spirit, thank you for those messages. What is Group 2's question for their departed? What is their question, their query, their concern? What do they want to know? Okay, so I'm not entirely sure what the message is here. I'm going to get some more cards here. We've got the Ace of Swords at the bottom. It doesn't help much. Let's see. High Priestess. Spirit, could you please give some more clarification? What is the question that Group 2 has for their departed loved one? For their departed. Six of Cups. And the Nine of Swords. You are wanting to know. Well, first of all, I think that there's more than one message here. I think that's why I'm having trouble getting this to clarify a little bit. You want to know if they're okay. First of all, you want to know if they are happy, or if they ever found any happiness. I think that's kind of the message. You want to know if they ever found any happiness, like where they are now, or if they're still working away, trying to find their way to being happy. You're wanting to know if they are still just futilely working to, or if they're like basically spinning their wheels. Are they still unable to calm down? Are they still unable to stop and just get grounded and relax and feel solid? That's what you want to know. You want to know, have they been able to stop this treadmill that they've been on their whole life, this need to go, and just slow down and just be happy? Or are they, and you want to know, I mean, this is like the opposite of being happy. Is this still where they are just like compelled to just run off and just constantly be doing without, just to kind of maybe suppress the demons in their head? Or did they finally find someplace where they could be happy? Did they finally find someplace where they can be happy? That's what you want to know for them. Spirit, thank you for that message. May we please have messages with regard to the reply from the deceased. And I think I need a different deck. I think maybe this one. Okay. So Spirit, deceased, what is the reply to that question? What is your reply to wanting to know if you've ever been able to finally settle down, stop running on a hamster wheel, and found happiness? What is your reply to that? Okay, well, that's a little craziness here. Let's see what we got. That's an awful lot of cards, but let's see what we got here. Okay. Okay, so they want you to know that their death has allowed them to slow down, go inward, and they have sent out this amazing, beautiful energetic vibration, and I don't know if send out is the right word. They exude this vibration now. It is something that just gives them this sense of, it's just a sense of wholeness and a sense of just a great sense of calm, but it's more than that. It's this just sense of just deep down happiness, pure love. I mean, it's just this solid, I don't ever have to worry ever again. I don't ever have to work that hard ever again. I'm here, I'm whole, and and they want you to know, again, here's this huge sense of just happiness and wholeness. The beautiful rainbows in both of these cards. These solid creatures who are just grounded. They're so big and they're so just solid. And then this rainbow that just extends over them. And then here we've got the Flower of Cups, which means that their happiness has begun to flower. And then the Ten of Cups. Again, we've got a very rainbow theme here, surrounded by the emotion of love. They want you to know that this is possible. They want you to know that this has happened, and this transformation, they're calling out that this transformation is available to anyone. That they had the power all along. They had the wisdom and the ability all along to change their life, to have this great happiness. But they didn't hear it calling them. They just didn't hear it calling them because they were so busy all the time. They were so busy putting their energy outward so that they could always be busy and not really have to think and listen within themselves. But this energy, this power of creation has been calling them, and it calls to everyone. But they now realize that they didn't hear it because they were just too busy pushing away any emotion or pushing away any understanding of what was going on within them. So that's the reply to you. Spirit departed, what is it that you want Group 2 to know? Thank you, Spirit, for those messages. What is it that the departed wants Group 2 to know? Yeah, they just want you to know that they have reached a place, they've climbed up and they've reached a place where they can just feel all of the things that they gathered throughout their life, but they didn't. They put these things out of reach during their lifetime here. This probably symbolizes the love, the emotion, the understanding, all of the things that they would have needed to actually feel this love and this stability. They put those in a place where they couldn't get to them. They stored them so far out of reach, and oftentimes we do that. We suppress these things. We close off our heart. We put them out of reach so we can't get to them. But they want you to know that the way that you can get to those is just to allow them to come to you, to go with the flow, to feel, just to not try to suppress them, not always be trying to plan ahead, not always be trying to busy yourself, to do the next thing, to always be keeping busy or doing what you think others expect you to do. The way to find these things that you've stored away, this deep emotion, this understanding of who you are, and this love that's at the core of us, the way to find that is just to go with that flow. Don't always be trying so hard to be doing all the time. Just allow it to come to you. I think that's a beautiful message, and I'm really glad that I had an opportunity to share this with you. I think I've learned something through this as well. So let's see what the lesson card that we got. It says be proactive, and the message is recognize one of the major areas of insecurity in your life and see how much it disempowers you. Then identify one small action that you can take to release that insecure feeling. Your goal is to observe whether you're proactive or passive, since healing requires proactive energy. And it's funny because this is sort of almost the opposite message of what we got in this last here. Healing requires proactive energy rather than passive. But that proactive energy has to be based on what is nurturing to you, not just being proactive and trying to do without having a basis for why you're doing that. So when it starts out and says recognize one of the major areas of insecurity in your life and see how much it disempowers you, that's what this person didn't do. They didn't identify what it was that was disempowering them. They just kept busy all the time so they wouldn't have to actually look at what it was that was difficult for them. So identify that and identify an action that you can take to release the insecurity. So, and again, sometimes that just means letting whatever happens happen. I mean, that's one of the best ways to release insecurity. We're insecure because we have an expectation of what we need to see happen. And when it doesn't happen, because we've built up so much need to have this happen, when it doesn't happen, that knocks us down, that breaks down our wall that we've built up to protect ourselves. That we needed this action to create this outcome. And if it doesn't create that outcome, then we become insecure, we become fearful because we had planned for it to be this way. So now we don't know what to do because our plan's been ruined because it didn't happen that way. Excuse me, but honestly, if you don't plan, if you don't have that plan and you just go about and whatever shows up, since you don't have a plan of what should be coming up, whatever does come up, you can react to that rather than reacting from what you thought was going to happen. And when it doesn't happen, the reaction that you had planned obviously is not going to be appropriate for what did actually happen. So by letting things flow, and that can be the small action that you can take, is to let things flow, let things be. Don't try to anticipate them. Just be ready to do your best, whatever comes up. And that will help you to be able to uncover this strength of yourself that we all try to cover up by being too busy all the time. We don't believe in the strength that we have within ourselves oftentimes. And so we try and stay busy so that we won't accidentally find out that we're weak or we're scared. But honestly, we're a lot stronger than we know. And that's what your loved one is trying to tell you here. Just let things flow. You're a lot stronger. You are the one who stored away these things where you can't reach them. But you can get to them again. You got there to put them there in the first place. You can get back. So I hope this message is helpful for you. I hope that maybe this brings some closure for you if you need that. Some peace, some grace, some hope, whatever it is that you might need. I hope this has brought it for you. And I very much appreciate you being here with me. When I do these readings, I do them for you. And I welcome you back anytime. And so thank you for spending this time with me. Bye-bye.